Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Mila Baraika. I'm looking at a very interesting root that's in the Hebrew. Appears approximately 50 times, a little bit more than 50 times, as a basic root, both as a verb and as a noun. And so it's basically the question, what are you thinking? And the thought patterns. Starting first of all, how God thinks about things and how we think about things. And there are numerous places in the scriptures where those things are compared. So let's go to it. I remember this root. It's the Chet Shin Bet. Chet Shin Bet is the base root. And we see it in the city name Heshbon. It's the city of the Transjordan. And the king of Heshbon had the ability to beat down most of Moab. But then when the people of Israel came through, the Lord gave the victory. In other words, he couldn't stand up to the Lord. Even though he was a very smart guy, his name indicated it, the name of the city indicated it. And so, Heshbon. Now, it was used in numerous combinations, most of them based on Yahweh, but some of them, all of these have been taken from the book of Nehemiah. In the time of Nehemiah, they liked putting together names based on what Jehovah was doing. So we have Heshbon as a city, as a thinking place, intellectual place, maybe. And we have Ha-Shav Ne-Yah. So the Lord Jehovah thinks. Now we see the Nun, emphatic Nun, is still carried through to this particular root. This is a very similar root down here, just missing the Nun here. But basically the same thought as to what's happening. Jehovah thinks about things. Jehovah understands. So Hashabiah, and then Jehovah thinks of things. Jehovah has thought about me. Hashabiah. And then Hashavna, this is a hortative na on the end here. Think about it, please. Okay? Maybe a petition to the Lord. Please think about me. Hashavna. We also have Hashbadana. Hashbadana is Danatan is a judge, and it means a judge that gives some thought to his decisions or his thought process. So Hashdana, a judge that thinks clearly. As a here, this is the verb hashav. He thinks, and then as a noun, you take this hashav and add on a mem. Makes it into a noun. And this is this one and this one here appears about 50 times in the Bible, about 52 actually. I looked it up, and it's most of them are the plural, the thoughts, mahashevot, okay, mahashavot, the thoughts, and then mashava. Find this over in Jeremiah a couple of times, but almost other places where we find hashavot, it's in the plural. We'll start with Judah in Genesis 38. All of the women mentioned in the five women mentioned book of Matthew, many of them very similar circumstances, and many of them are treated very nicely, and many of them are thought of very poorly. And then we have this one here, starting out with Tamar. This is seeing her. This the reference here to seeing this person is Tamar. When Judah saw her, he thought, this incidentally, Tamar was waiting for Judah to send over the third son so that the name could be brought forward in Israel. But Judah wasn't doing what he should be doing. So she essentially traps him. It's an entrapment here. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be a prostitute. In other words, that was his thought pattern. For she had covered her face. That was an assumption on his part, and I suppose in that day and age and that culture, that was something that happened. Happens to this day. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Yerecha Yehuda Yash Beha Lezona Ki Kista Fanecha. Kista is to cover. Same word, same verb that's used for the seraphim covering their faces, and when they appeared to Isaiah in the call of Isaiah. So Kista. So and then he saw her, Judah, and then he thought about it. His thought process has started here, and we'll see that in this verb here, and also in its noun use, when human beings are thinking about things, generally it's bad. So the thought of man, the heart of man is evil. Who can determine it? And this is quite often the case. We see it here happening when we first look at this verb. When men think about things, it's probably going to go wrong. And we find this contrast especially true in Genesis 50, verse 20, when Joseph's father has died. Now his brothers are really pretty shook because they think he's going to be retaliating against them. And so they send a messenger and say, you know, your Lord said to forgive us. And then when they do finally appear before Joseph, Joseph has this expression and this analysis of what happened and all the evil things they did to him, throwing him in a cistern and selling him to the Ishmaelites. And then it's just, you know, a terrible thing they did to their brother. But he had seen it through, and he had understood revelation, maybe from God as well, that although you thought evil against me, you had plotted things, you were working things evil, God thought it for good. God had the same verb here, hashabtem, hashabah, and to think or to think it out, to consider. You thought evil against me. God thought it for good, in order to do as he is doing now on this day, to keep alive many people. In other words, whatever evil had taken place, God had turned it to good. So, Ve'atem, hashabtem, alai, ra'av, you had against me evil. Elohim hashava, letova, leman. God has turned it, or thought about it, considered it for good. So for the sake of, in order to, aso, to be doing kayom on this day. Yeah, has a patah here. Kayom, hazeh, this day. Here's demonstrative, and this one's also definite article underneath the preposition, so that will be this day. Lehayot am ra'av, in order to make alive or keep alive. This is a chet root right here. Lechai. Yahayot, Rav, a large or great people, lengthy people. Then in Isaiah 55, we have, let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man's thoughts. Let him return to Jehovah, that he may have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. And osav starts out with the verb. It's a hortatory thing here. Same word as Eli, Eli, lama asabachthani. Here it's a petition to forsake. It's a petition to abandon, leave it behind. Okay, let the rasha, let the evil one, abandon or forsake. Dercho, his way. Ve'ishaven, and an evil man. Mehesh botav, his thoughts. Okay, may he abandon those thoughts, put them to one side, get rid of them. Veshav, and let him return. Al Yehovah, but Yerache Mehu, and he will have compassion on him. This the person who's having compassion probably has the Lord. The Lord is having compassion on him, on this evil person who has turned to the Lord. Ve'alachelinu, and to our God. Eloheinu, this is Yehovah, and this is Eloheinu. Ki yerbe le sheloach, because he will abundantly, a long distance or strong distance, pardon. His pardon goes a long ways. The root here is mashavot. Okay, mashavot. The thoughts. The root, base root is the hashav, chet shin bet. Then the mem turns it into a noun, and then the holum tau is the feminine plural suffix ending here, the thoughts. And then it's the thoughts of him. There's also a personal pronoun suffix way at the end of this thing in reference to the evil person here. And Isaiah continues talking about this, and this is the Lord now speaking, okay, declares the Lord, Naom Yehovah. And when it has my thoughts, that's the thoughts of Jehovah, and your thoughts, and this is in the plural, this is in the thoughts of mine, and then thoughts of yours, plural, and then ways of yours and way of mine, okay? So you have thoughts of mine, thoughts of yours, and then roads or ways of you, and then ways of mine. So these are, it inverts, here you'll start out with the Lord, and then the people, and here it's the people, and then it's the Lord. So for my thoughts are not your thoughts, okay? Ki lo ma shevotai, ma shevotechem, ve lo derachem, derachai, neum Yehovah. Okay, my thoughts are not your thoughts. In other words, the good Lord, Jehovah, is Jehovah right here at the end. He's on a very much different wavelength than what we are. We're thinking about certain things. We've got ideas. We've got projects. We've got things we want to do. We want things that we desire, and so forth. But Jehovah has an entirely different game plan for us, and so it's something we have to recognize, especially those who are involved in evil. The Lord wants us to tune our thoughts towards His thoughts, and again, that's what the Lord wants of us. And makes a comparison here. By the way, in the previous one, we did not have a comparison mem. I was almost ready to say that this first mem was doing a little bit of double duty as a comparison, but we here have a full-out comparison mem, comparison preposition, compared to, higher than, okay? So, whereas the heavens are higher than the earth, ki gevuhu shamayim me'aretz, ken gevuhu derchai me derachem. Okay, just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so then, yes, then, gevuhu are higher, derchai, my road, than your roads, than your ways. Okay, derchai me derachem. And this mem right here is a comparative preposition, compared to your roads. My road is much higher than your road. And then the second one is also, again, another comparative. U mahashivot, and then my thoughts, the way I'm going to plan things, the way I'm working through things, that's also mehashivotechem, compared to your thoughts. In other words, the height that there is for God's way and our way, and His thoughts and our thoughts, there's a huge, huge difference. It's much, much higher, much more advanced, much more extended, and so forth. And this is one passage that has been of guidance to me in preparation and thinking about when I'm working through what Hebrew is telling me or what scriptures are telling me. I always realize that whatever study I have done, whatever I have looked at, it's always partial compared to the way the Lord thinks. In other words, when you're hearing me say things here about Hebrew, even though sometimes it gets pretty involved, very complicated, but no, it's still very, very simple, very incomplete. Still lots to go. Still a lot of material to learn. Still lots of things to understand, and we are looking at as yet in a very partial light. The Apostle Paul says we're looking through a glass darkly. We don't know what's going on as yet, but then when it comes time, we'll be looking face to face. And this is something that encourages me in this study. I do these studies because I like to learn from the scriptures, and I like to share that knowledge with people. But I know that whatever I have taught people, or whatever I'm teaching, we're just making a start on it. It's just starting on the whole study. So and that's how we must think of what happens in our lives. Our thoughts quite often are very partial, very sometimes even outright sinful, but God certainly has His thoughts, and His thoughts are always thoughts about how things are going to turn out, just as Joseph's brothers discovered they were planning evil, but the Lord used it for good. And sometimes we're planning things, but when the Lord loves us, He will turn it out for good. So sometimes things are falling apart in our lives, but hold firm to God's direction in your life, and at some point, the Lord will make it turn out. So may God bless and may God strengthen you. I'm going to do another study from the following passages of Isaiah 55, 10, 11, 12. There's a very beautiful sequence there. I really can't start on it right now. It's going to get way too long. But I'll have another study that follows, follow up on this particular passage. It's a whole matter of how God's Word goes forward into the world and carries out its purpose. So may God bless and may God strengthen you in this day. Until the next time.